Yesterday, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre dodged several reporters' questions about why President Biden doesn't participate in formal press conferences. Here's what she had to say.
Is the administration trying to protect the president from our questions? Please, answer that question.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So why the lack of any interaction in a formal setting to have a press conference?
I mean, the president takes shouted questions. I understand, John. I understand.
Okay.
I understand. I've dealt with this question about 3 times already. I understand. It is the job of you all to ask this question to me. Totally get that, and that's not a problem at all. But certainly, the president many times has stood in front of all of you, has taken questions on his own, because he wanted to see what was all on your minds. He wanted to see what the questions you all were going to ask him, and he wanted to answer them directly. That has happened multiple times, many times during this administration, and that will certainly continue to be. When it comes to a formal press conference, I don't have anything to share with you at this time.
Jean-Pierre went on to repeat her claim that the president takes shouted questions from reporters, something the White House press corps couldn't help but voice their disagreement with. Here's a little more of that exchange.
So I'll say this. It is also unprecedented that a president takes as many shouted questions as this president has. And he has.
I know the last administration, but I'll tell you, almost every day on this
Okay. Well, we'll certainly get the data and share that with all of you. I hear, John, I hear your question. I heard Zeke's question. I hear you. I hear you on the press conference, on a formal press conference. We get this probably every couple of months when you guys ask us about a formal press conference. I don't have anything to share with all of you at this time.
According to reports, Biden has managed to sidestep the media more than his predecessors. Data compiled by the American Presidency Project shows that Biden has held an average of 10.5 press conferences per year since he's been in office. The last president to have fewer on average was Ronald Reagan, with just under 6 per year. Now, obviously, Trump had this combative love-hate relationship with him. He loved giving press conferences. He loved engaging with the press. He loved feuding with them, and it was good for everyone. The feuding with the press was good for the press because, it helped feed into their, Donald Trump is trying to destroy the media. Their viewers loved it. It then helped Trump on right-wing media say, look how he actually fights. He doesn't, like other Republicans, just take it from the media, but he actually pushes back. He actually stands up. Everyone was benefiting from it. But that was kind of a unique arrangement, even if other presidents have also spoken to the press more than Biden himself. Biden's just kind of old. Yeah. Tired, doesn't speak is not very interesting when he speaks to the press, honestly.
Look, the man was known for his gas. Yeah. That anybody knew what was up with him before he became Obama's VP is that he's gaffe prone and he did the crime bill. And your insight about Donald Trump is completely right. Apparently, Trump did, on average, twice as many formal press conferences as Joe Biden. Joe Biden really ranks at the bottom here. And I got to say, the comparison to Ronald Reagan isn't a favorable one, given some of the reasons why Reagan stopped doing press conferences due to his own cognitive decline. So those are not the kind of rumors. That's not the kind of inferences that Biden wants the public to be drawing here. But from a kind of administration perspective, I mean, as a member of the press, I'm obviously invested in seeing him submit to more questions. But from an administration perspective, I completely understand why strategically they would rather take some angry questions about why Biden isn't at the podium than have to deal with the fallout from what Biden may or may not say at the podium. Because remember, this is a man who very successfully ran and beat Donald Trump in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic, not getting before the public very often, very famously kind of running from the basement.
Right, he doesn't need them. And in fact, obviously the press is extremely supportive. The mainstream press is extremely supportive of Joe Biden already. He doesn't need to do more to get them on his side. Mm-hmm. They're very much on his side. Yes, he's not particularly eloquent. He doesn't perform amazingly. Frankly, he doesn't even really make news as much as you would think the president does. Every now and then every now and then he does respond to a shouted questions. I think that famous when he actually accused the social media companies, Facebook in particular, of killing people because they were not censoring more COVID-related misinformation. I believe that was a shouted question as he was boarding or deboarding Air Force One from reporters, where he kind of off the cuff responded to that, which you could argue that was a bad thing that helped probably make the social media companies feel like the pressure on them was even more pronounced, because the president of the United States was going to come after them theoretically with all the might of the federal government if they didn't comply with what the CDC was telling them to do. But it's that sort of thing that he does respond to shouted questions every now and then.
Right, and the exchange in which he was critical of Bibi Netanyahu over the judiciary coup that he's planning and the protests in Israel, it definitely happened outside. I remember that interview happening outside. I think that might have been a rather informal press exchange as well. But it did make news. That was a big one that garnered a pushback from Netanyahu and was reported as a kind of shift in U.S.-Israel relations, a small crack in an otherwise very tight relationship. And I wonder if there is any relationship between the pushback that Biden might have gotten for saying that, whether that was something he was supposed to say, whether that was one of his kind of extemporaneous truth-telling moments. It's not clear, but the timing of that is interesting. That the last time I remember him, at least, really saying something to the public was to give a comment that had potentially significant geopolitical implications, and which elicited a pretty strong response from the leader of one of our closest allies.
Yeah, he just doesn't have a natural ability to do it very well. He's an older man. It's disorienting, getting a lot of questions at once, being in front of the crowd. Karine Jean-Pierre, what was she's spinning, obviously, because it is self-evident that he does not talk to the press as much as other presidents did.
Right.
And she's trying to spin that, and there's just no way to spin that.
Yeah, also, if you're going to say that, the reason is he takes more shouted questions than other presidents, you need to have some numbers. Because when she said that and the press corps said,
no.
I mean, that is not a good look. And again, during COVID, they had the explanation of it's COVID.
Yeah.
He's an older guy. We're trying to protect him.
Although at the start of COVID, right, Trump did a press conference. Remember those? They were
sure.
They were not daily. They were weekly, or maybe more than weekly.
We know that Trump has perfect health.
I blanked this entire time period from my memory.
You can't expect that.
That's when
Trump,
the bleach remark happened.
Yeah. Trump, he had the bleach. No. Trump has perfect health. His doctor told him he's the healthiest man on the planet. His insides are preserved by a diet of fast food. The man is never going to die. I don't expect Joe Biden to make himself as vulnerable to these things as Donald Trump. However, that was a built-in excuse that I think pacified people who might otherwise view something like this as kind of anti-democratic or inappropriate. So the White House needs to come up with something else that doesn't raise the implication that he is just not up to the task.
Yeah, they should get right on that. We will have more Rising right after this.